Let's start with the first question from the audience. Who's the lucky one? Anyone? Please.
Yeah, Attis Lēņš, Latvian Saima. The last presentation, 85% from European funds and not 15, but 40%. The state has to come with 40%. Can you give us an explanation of that? Because I think everybody's wondering about that. It's supposed to be 80%, but you say it will not be 85%.
Well,
Jakub, yes.
it's
probably.
85% of eligible funds, plus every project is evaluated for financial gap, because every project is checked how much it can bring revenues, and then in the end, that was our experience. 85% of eligible means 60% of total.
And if I may add to this, the point of making the new CBA for Rail Baltica was also to update this funding gap for the Rail Baltica project. And as now is presented, it came up to be 94%. And then you multiply that funding gap with the effective threshold rate, assuming in the base case that it will remain 85%. But we are not sure what will happen after this financial perspective is over. So
yes, then if I may just supplement, there are also some limitation concerning how much money of the whole project may be, for instance, spent on acquiring land plots. There are many of these rules in European law, and in the end, if you apply everything, and you have to apply everything, in our case it was, most cases, little more than 60%.
okay. More questions from the floor? Okay, I'll take one from Slido. Jakub, again, a question to you, currently the most popular one. Why are Baltic countries designing a 240 track for passengers while Poland is earmarked to develop 160?
It's not a question to me, it's a question for Baltic countries.
Shall we carry this question over to the next session, which will deal with the passenger side of it?
Well, I can only say that we were starting a discussion about high-speed line in Poland. Why project? Why like letter, not like why? And in the end, we concluded that right now we can't afford it. Maybe not only that we can't afford it, that there are more important other needs in Poland, because Poland is a little bit unique in this not best way, that we just neglected our railway network since the late 80s, and therefore right now we have to catch up, and politically based decision was taken, do the conventional as best as we could, and then after 2020 we can go back to the discussion about high speed in Poland.
All right, thank you. There's one question that we inherited from the previous Q&A session. It's from another Saima member, Vaiko Spolitis. The question refers to, there are certain people in the Baltics who would argue that Rail Baltica is in some ways nullifying the investments that were made previously in the Baltic ports infrastructure. So how would you respond to such allegations? And maybe Normunds, you would be well equipped to respond to that.
Actually, as I already started to stress in my presentation, that we should look on every infrastructure node as a tool, although it's port or it's Rail Baltica, and the question is how we are using those tools. It's the same like you are taking the surgery set, and then whether you are using 2 tools or you are using all of them. The question is about the the logistics solutions, and that is the crucial point, because as colleague already told, even today you can come by rail from Europe to Latvia or Estonia. Is that true? Yeah, it's true. And you also mentioned that there is how many trains?
3 per day.
3 per day. But these are passenger or freight?
No, there's one train from Kraków to Mockava, I believe, because there was some misunderstanding with Lithuanian Railways about prolonging it to Kauna. And then they'll count as 2 freight ones, but I'm not quite sure about it.
Yeah, but altogether, it's the solution is already in place. The question is about the services available and about these really solutions that matter economic-wise. That's why I mentioned this slide about the assembling the bicycle. These are those solutions we should look on, because today, if we are taking, let's say, the trucking prices today from Riga to Vilnius, from Riga to Tallinn, existing trucking prices. I think that the audience will correct me, but at the moment the cost is around 200-250 euro per full truck between the Baltic cities, and it's door to door. Price-wise, it's very hard for rail to beat this price. The question is about what you can add to this infrastructure part to make it economically feasible. And traditional logistics is very, very unlikely to happen here. Therefore, coming back to ports and Rail Baltica, there is, of course, the possibility to make some synergy there, but we should think on some complex, how to get bigger volumes in, not to concentrate on, I see already some next questions, not to concentrate on switching from road to rail, but to bring completely new cargo segments in and new players in. And that can be done only with combination: taxation, customs, environment, infrastructure, and solutions. That's the only possibility.
And continuing on that subject of different policies, how to promote the competitiveness of freight use on Rail Baltica, Jorma, what would be your insights?
Well, of course, from my experience too. So when we are talking about the competitiveness of freight, so we need some distance there. Of course, there are in Central Europe and Sweden, there are good examples that even as little as 200 kilometers can be the viable distance. But normally it's much more. It can be 400 kilometers was DB Schenker's view, 700 kilometers somebody are saying, and somebody even 1,000, which of course is exaggerating. But it must be long distance, and there must be proper cooperation between traffic modes, so that short distances and city deliveries, of course, it's by lorries and other vehicles, electronic, whatever. This competition between ports and Rail Baltica investment, I don't, from my angle, I don't see any reason to worry about that, because it's really, everything is getting closer to each other, traffic modes and also different industries with digitalization.
Jakub, what is your take?
Well, unfortunately, this question was already answered by European legislation, and all European countries are obliged to sign multi-annual contracts with its infrastructure managers to provide them funds to minimize access charges. And this is what I said, that we as Poland will have to pay very, very soon 1.2 billion yearly. I meant this. And because if it's great infrastructure and the costs are higher, nobody will use railways. So it was said by you that bulk cargo is transported to countries south and east-south of Poland by lorries. I mean, I can see two reasons. One, it is because of the current and the previous state of infrastructure in Poland, and we are changing it now. Secondly, it's because of the costs of transportation.
Okay. There are a couple of questions on the operational side. So you as experts, what would be your opinion on who may likely operate on Rail Baltica in the future? What will be the competition or partnership dynamics vis-a-vis the incumbent legacy freight carriers that are now mostly operating in the 15-20 gauge? And maybe would there be any potential to involve joint or international intermodal operators on the line? Jorma, let's start with you.
Okay, tricky question. It's free market. EU's free market, so obviously there will be traditional carriers and also new international carriers, Central Europeans. I think part of the big rail companies are interested about this. And what I expect and hope is that there will be much more competition than there is nowadays in these markets.
Well, first part, who will operate? This is a question that is not answered by experts. This is a question answered by politicians. And the second, well, this will be an infrastructure built with usage of European money. Therefore, it will be open to everybody, and only the capacity is the limit. So if there'll be a business case, then everybody will try to use it.
So, Norman, there are somewhat conflicting views. On the one hand, the market will decide. On the other hand, the politicians will decide.
Oh, politician will create who will operate. By operate, I understand who will be giving access to the network, who will be traffic controller, and these are the roles of infrastructure managers. And it's up to the governments of 3 Baltic states to decide who will be infrastructure manager on this line. But then, from the point of view as operator, as I said, rail undertakings, and we call them applicants in European law, then all European rules will apply, and everybody who has capacity will have to use it till the capacity of line is exhausted.
Norman, can you be a bit more practical on this? I mean, do you already see players in the market who could, in the future, consider operating on Rail Baltica? Not on the infrastructure management side, but particularly on operations, freight flow management side.
Of course, it's a guess in the future, but of course, the priority is for those players that are already used to work in 40-35 millimeters area and have some experience there. Another point that will decide those operators will be the origin and consumption place of the cargo that is involved in these operations. Because in many cases, let's say, if the cargo will be originated or will be meant for let's say, the Germany, more likely there will be some players that are related with Germany, let's say. But of course, this is a guess, and there could be, as we see in Europe, there are a lot of smaller operators that are some niche operators. And of course, there are some giants like Deutsche Bahn or DHL, whatever.
On piggyback transportation, a very exciting subject for any rail project that involves freight. One question, Jakub, to you: how successful has Poland been in implementing piggyback transportation trucks on rail? within the past 5 to 7 years? And also, what would be all of your views regarding whether the focus should be on semi-trailers, unaccompanied combi transport, or the full rolling highway?
Well, as I said it during my presentation, that our success was to maintain the 60% around. So we can't be much delighted, but you must. Well, what I know it sounds like an excuse, but we are during the large modernization process. This June we will close this light blue part between Warsaw and Poznań. This will be a nightmare. This will also close the line from Warsaw to Lublin and further to Ukraine border. But we are closing these lines because of the experience from previous perspective, when we are trying to keep traffic and modernize the line, and in the end, I'm Warsaw, Gdańsk. It took us, I don't know, 10 years. And this, there was even some jokes in development ministry that perhaps 4 perspectives for us will be enough. So I think that, I know it sounds not good, but give me this question in 5-6 years when we'll have completed the main routes, and then perhaps we'll have more money to foster this trucks on trucks. Yes, it's in English. It's even worse than in Polish. Tire na tory.
Norman, I know you were an expert not only on piggyback transportation, but also on different freight wagon innovations. So what do you think? What of that could be applied to Rail Baltica?
Let's say there are two aspects that is from the market side. The one is, let's compare the existing situation. I can take, let's say, Latvia. We have several ferry connections between Latvian ports and Europe. And I know that a lot of truckers are using the system that they are one direction, they are going completely by road and returning back by sea, or vice versa. Why they are doing that? To comply with the rest and work those timings, yeah. Because if the driver is on the ferry, then he is taking rest and meeting those requirements. That is one aspect. Another aspect is accompanied versus accompanied trucks. Of course, two issues. One is lack of drivers. It means that salary for the drivers are going up, and the number of drivers are becoming less. That is one issue. Another one is that truck and the driver, these are costs. And while they are on the train or on the ferry, they are not generating income. They are just making losses. Therefore, if you can put them aside, of course, it's in favor of unaccompanied trucks for especially this route. Because the trucking prices, more or less in Baltics, they are pretty much similar. Means there is no difference whether it's a Lithuanian trucker or Latvian trucker that is making this final mile.
And Jorma, your final remarks before we wrap up?
Well, I would underline this meaning of cooperation between different modes and also different operators between the modes. This interoperability matter, generally speaking, is something which also the company shippers do underline a lot, and obviously there's a big building work there throughout the whole corridor. Further than Rail Baltica is that the offering which will be given to the customers. So it doesn't stop because of some nodal point problem somewhere. One thing I forgot to mention in my speech is that surprisingly big interest is for this Asian traffic by Viking or other trains, which are I heard that surprisingly many lorries which are traveling on via Baltica to Finland, so they are discharged in Warsaw from these Chinese trains and reloaded there, or the unit is put on that. So that these are also, they are clearly playing some role in the future. If a bigger part of unit traffics to and from China, for example, is going for different rail routes, so the nodal points who serve both, so they are becoming extremely important. Warsaw is one of them, clearly. Kaunas, in my opinion, and Riga as well.
Okay. Thank you, Jorma. Let's give a warm hand to our panelists. This concludes the trade session.